It was an evening I'll never forget. The moment I stepped into Jan's family home, a sense of unease washed over me. I tried to shake it off, hoping everything would go smoothly. I had been led to believe that this visit was the next step toward our future together. But as soon as I walked in, the tension in the air was almost palpable. I was greeted with smiles, but they didn't feel genuine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, though I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was yet. Jan seemed different that day, more distant, like he wasn't fully there. His mother, Kelly, greeted me warmly, but I could tell there was something cold in her eyes. We all sat down for what was supposed to be a casual meeting, but everything changed in an instant. Without any warning, a glass of champagne was thrown in my face. The sharp sting of the liquid hit my skin, and I gasped, not understanding what was happening. It wasn't just the shock of being drenched, it was the cruelty behind the action that rattled me. "How about that, you poor thing?" "I've eliminated the smell of poverty for you," Kelly sneered. The words cut through me like a knife. I stood frozen, unable to respond as the liquid burned in my eyes. I looked to Jan for an explanation, but instead he stood there, laughing. His laughter wasn't out of joy. It was mocking, as if he found it amusing to humiliate me. That was the moment I realized that everything I had thought was a promise of a future had been a lie. A dark, uncomfortable truth started to unfold. I had always kept my professional life separate from my personal life, but now it seemed like my decision to trust Jan and his family had been my greatest mistake. "Why would you do this?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. But Kelly just laughed harder. She didn't even seem to care about the pain she had caused. It was as though she believed I deserved it. That's when Jan's father, President Coleman, entered the room. He looked pale, his face betraying a mix of confusion and shame. "What's going on here?" President Coleman asked, his voice surprisingly calm. But I knew it wasn't real concern. He was just trying to maintain control over the situation. The more I thought about it, the more it became clear. They had never truly cared about me. They had been playing a game, using me for their own benefit. I could see it in their eyes, the gleam of opportunism. They wanted my business connections, and they thought that tying me to their family would secure that. But now, the truth was unraveling. I had heard rumors of their financial struggles and internal conflicts, but I hadn't wanted to believe them. I had ignored the warning signs, thinking that love could conquer all. But standing there, drenched in champagne, I couldn't ignore the reality any longer. My feelings for John, my hopes for a future with him, had all been a facade. This wasn't love. It was manipulation. The realization hit me like a slap in the face. I had to act quickly before they could do any more damage. "I'm sorry, but I can't continue with this," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I will terminate our contract with your company." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. There was silence for a moment before Jan and Kelly exchanged shocked looks. They had clearly not expected this response. They thought they could control me, that I would simply accept whatever they threw at me. But I wasn't going to let that happen. It was time to take control of my own life and walk away from this toxic situation. President Coleman's face went pale as he processed my words. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" he stammered, clearly shaken by the sudden shift in the conversation. He had always prided himself on his business dealings, and the thought of losing me as a partner was unbearable to him. But I wasn't going to be swayed. I had made up my mind. This was no longer just about business. It was about my dignity and self-respect. They had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. "You must be confused," President Coleman continued, trying to regain control. "This isn't about our personal lives. We have a strong professional relationship." But I shook my head, cutting him off. "No, it's not just about business. It's about the way you and your family have treated me." I could feel the weight of my words as they hit the room, the truth sinking in. It wasn't just the champagne or the insults. It was everything that had led up to this moment. The manipulation, the lies, the disrespect. Jan remained silent, his eyes flicking between me and his father. He seemed lost, like he didn't know what to do. I had once thought he was a kind, gentle person, but now I saw him for who he really was, weak and easily influenced by his family. "John, you have to understand," I said softly, trying to make him see the truth. "You were never a partner in this. You were a pawn." His face flushed with embarrassment. But he said nothing. He couldn't even defend himself. The tension in the room was thick, almost suffocating. Kelly, who had been watching everything unfold, now stood up, her face flushed with anger. "How dare you?" she spat. "You think you can just walk away like that? You can't do this." But I wasn't afraid of her anymore. "I've already made my decision," I said, turning to face her. "And it's not just about me. It's about your company, your son's future, and the truth you've been hiding from all of us." Kelly's expression faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered, her anger still palpable. President Coleman was the next to speak. "Please, think this through. You can't just walk away from everything we've built together." His voice was pleading, but there was something desperate in it that made me realize how much he was willing to sacrifice for the sake of his company. He didn't care about me or my well-being. He only cared about the bottom line. "I'm sorry," I said, shaking my head, "but I can't be a part of this any longer. You've made your choice, and I've made mine." I turned to leave, but as I did, something unexpected happened. Jan stepped forward, his voice low. "I'm sorry," he whispered, almost as if he were ashamed. I looked at him, feeling a strange mix of pity and disappointment. This was the same man who had once promised me a future. Now, he was just another victim of his family's manipulation. "It's too late," I said softly, my heart heavy with the weight of everything that had transpired. "You can't undo what's been done." And with that, I walked away, leaving them behind. The days that followed were a blur. I had made my decision, but the consequences were far-reaching. I had to sever all ties with their company, and that meant walking away from lucrative deals that had taken years to build. But I knew it was the right thing to do. There was no point in continuing a relationship that had been built on lies. As the weeks went by, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I was free. Free from the manipulation, free from the lies, free from the future they had planned for me. But the fallout wasn't just about business. It was personal, too. Kelly and Jan both tried to reach out to me, but I refused to take their calls. I didn't want to hear their excuses or apologies. The damage had been done, and I wasn't interested in their empty words. I focused on my work, rebuilding my company and my life. Slowly, I began to regain the strength I had lost during those months of deception. My business started to thrive again, and I began to take care of myself in ways I hadn't before. A year later, I found myself in a much different place. I had learned valuable lessons from my experience with John and his family. I had come to realize that happiness doesn't come from relying on others. It comes from within. My company was flourishing, and I was finally at peace with my decision. I had no regrets. The past had shaped me, but it no longer controlled me. I had taken charge of my own destiny, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The future